everyone. My name is Tavi. I'm 35 years old. Before I never go to school. I cannot write, I cannot read. My job pick up garbage and sell. Now, Hoodyvanman help me. Take me go to school, teach me how to sew, how to cut from blanket, sew blanket, then make capsule and sew hoodie. Have for take bracelet for the kid. Bracelet like this and sew hood, sew for maybe like and how you take me all Hoodyvanman take me and cashew. Hoodyvanman have poor, very poor Cambodia, have very poor from America. Hoodyvanman have all, take me all. Now I'm going to sing a song for homeless, forever the homeless. Anh chơi cho ba sầu lạnh, anh chơi hơi mò anh quay vai ôm, tại công plen sắm nhà tháng ngày mùng, làm ai ở nó đâu có chật, ai giang một riêng kìm, lời đó chia mình sát hiền nứt, anh chẳng phải mấy ban ở nét nưng, anh chơi cho chất cũng có chất sợi. Hiền snai trái lúc snai làm buồn, ra đâu bắt tay là nơi ở đã tôn chân, mà sửa lại mình trở về cực, chân cho chân trái snai hò, hai ơi snai hò. Thank you too much. Now Hoodyvanman.
What? No music? Oh, okay, no problem, no problem. Thank you, Tawi, for singing. That was a nice presentation you have. Lovely voice. I'm the Hoodyvanman. It's August 31st, 2019. It's a special day for me. It's the last day of August, but not only is it the last day of August, but it's 400 years ago. From 1619, it was the first presence of the African slaves at Jamestown, Virginia. And so recently, that date has been highlighted by some researchers and academic faculty of some of the most prestigious universities because sort of it talks about the comparison of, something significant for African Americans, black people. 1776 is when the British were fighting with the Americans and the colonists, 13 colonies, and so Americans declared their independence on 1776. 1787, our Constitution was ratified, okay? So our Constitution, our laws in America pretty much started around 1787. Now, I don't want to bore you with too many dates, but I'm going to talk about a few dates, okay? But as you can see here, this is my showroom. I am the Hoodyvanman. I am declaring myself free from economic slavery, economic servitude. We talk about a new Jim Crow. We talk about this, we talk about that. I've listened to lots of professionals, lots of experts on racism, Cornel West, Mr. Shelby, many people on their opinion on racism, discrimination, slavery, the cause, how to fix this, how to fix that. And as I said before, I was going to get down to the nitty-gritty. Not quite yet so. I'm going to talk a little bit about it after I hit you all with the dates. Before I let you know, before we go there, I'm going to let you know we are a nonprofit organization, 501c3. Everything you see here was sewn by our staff, including Tawi. Recycled fabric, handmade, including blankets for the homeless. Okay? We'll need sponsors, donors, volunteers, all. We've got hoodies. We've got dream catcher here for the Indians. I'm not going to not talk about the Indians. When the Portuguese and the Spanish people started taking the Africans from the during the African slave trade, somewhere around 1502, and they came to America in the 1600s, dude, guess what? Something happened. The Native Americans were already there. So we got two issues going on simultaneously. The Native Americans being displaced and the Africans that were forced, kidnapped from Africa. Okay? I want to just highlight real quick the Hoodyvanman. This is one coat. Took maybe about 7 or 8 hours to make, handmade. 7 or 8 hours to make, handmade. And so I have similar hoodies like this, different colors, one of a kind. We'll be looking for donations. I'll have a white van. That's why I'm the Hoodyvanman. I'm wearing a hoodie every time I see you. It is very, very hot in Cambodia. I am in the capital of Cambodia, which is Phnom Penh. Okay? And so one of the things that Ms. Tawi talked about was that she's very poor. She's a product of the Pol Pot regime, okay, the Khmer Rouge, which took over Cambodia somewhere between 1975 and 1980. Somehow the Americans got involved in the Vietnam War, and then boom, these terrorist, communistic people took over the capital of Cambodia, Phnom Penh, and they murdered, killed, enslaved, starved 2 million people. Slavery has been around for a long time. The British did not invent slavery. The Americans did not invent slavery. Slavery has been around for a long, long time. The origins of slavery go back to the Bible. Man first came, was originated on this earth through fossils, through the discovery of scientists, blah, 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 300,000 years ago. My brain can't even fathom 300,000 years ago. But when I see you in America, I'll be there in the next 30 days. I'll be giving away free gifts of all sorts. Come in, take a free gift, talk to me, make a donation, talk about volunteering, talk about some of the issues that you have. Today, I'm going to talk about some dates, and I'm going to talk about criminal justice reform and social justice reform. Next to the hoodie. Oh, by the way, this is called a slight pagoda. In most Cambodian homes, you'll see a pagoda here where people can pray and sort of make prayer to their parents who died, their grandparents, everyone. So anyway, as I said, 1502 is somewhere around this time the African slave trade begins from Africa, going to Spain, Portugal. Oh yeah, the Spanish and the Portuguese were responsible for this, okay? And they started dropping off slaves, trading them. Hispaniola, I read somewhere, that's modern day Haiti today. And so 1619, we talked about the official arrival of slaves into the Americas, okay? Again, let's not forget the Native Americans that Christopher Columbus discovered. I call all these people terrorists. Anyway, from 1619 to 1776, the 13 colonies were trying to fight with Britain over dependence. 1776, Boston Tea Party, blah, 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 all these things. Guess what? America declared their independence. Between 1776 and 1865, a lot happened. 1787, Constitutional Convention, the American Constitution was ratified. The laws decided what is going to be the law in America. From 1801, around 1865, the American Civil War. 500,000 people died, including black people and former slaves, fought in the American Civil War. Between 1865 and 1896 with Reconstruction. Somewhere between 1865, they were released through the 13th Amendment and the wait a second, the 13th Amendment and the Jesus Christ.
Cool.
Okay, somewhere between the 1776 and 1865, we had the Emancipation Proclamation and the 13th Amendment, which freed the slaves under Abraham Lincoln. Okay? Between 1865 and 1896, you had Jim Crow and KKK and huge racism growth between that period. 1896, you had Plessy versus Ferguson. Somehow, white people didn't like the former slaves, eating with them, sleeping with them, drinking in the same water fountain, eating in the same restaurants. And so someone said, okay, you know what? Separation is equal. So they're going to have equal schools, separate schools, separate housing, separate, blacks and whites can have separate positions on the bus, separate seats. So between 1896 and 1954, landmark decision 1954, Plessy versus Brown versus Board of Education. They overturned Plessy versus Ferguson. This was the beginning of the civil rights fight, where black people were saying, wait a second, we want to have equal rights, equal everything, because separation, it ain't equal, so we want equal everything. So boom, between 1954 and 1964, we had the Civil Rights Act legislation. Okay? That said that everyone had equal rights. Everyone is equal under the law. Forget the 14th Amendment, the 4th Amendment, and the 13th Amendment. 1964 specifically said everyone is equal. Black people have civil rights. Boom. 1965, guess what? We can vote too. We can vote as well. So 1965 was the Voting Rights Act. It gave women, men, everyone the right to vote. It had nothing to do with you being your color, purple, red, old, woman, yellow, female, dog, cat. Anyone can vote. 1965. Fast forward, 2009, boom, guess what? Barack Obama's president. Everyone has hope. I think his campaign words were keep hope alive. Okay? And so where are we today? Bam! Trump, Donald Trump, 2019. He went into office somewhere around 2017. Guess what? We got a lot of killing, we got more racism, we got more separation, we got more bigotry, we got everything. But he also passed the First Step Act, okay, which allowed the release of certain nonviolent offenders in the federal system. So let's talk about criminal justice reform. Criminal justice reform, if you commit a crime, that's criminal. Justice means, guess what? It's equal for everyone. Reform means, well, if you got to fix something, if it was a certain form, you got to go back and reformulate it. You got to fix it. So reform is really fixing something, okay? And so social justice reform. Well, social and criminal is almost the opposite. If it's not a criminal, it's got to be social. So let's take an example. Under the 1964 Civil Rights Act, people complain about fair housing. So if you're discriminated against because you're black, because you're old, because you're young, because of your color or something, it will fall under social justice. And we still have, up to this day, 2019, we have criminal justice reform needed, social justice reform needed in the areas of mental health, housing, etc., etc., etc. Our organization deals with 501c3 homelessness. Homelessness. And I want to talk about homelessness for a little while, not long. I don't want to bore everyone because I've watched a lot of videos where great speakers are just talking and you can't keep up. You may fall asleep. So I want to keep this informative, but at the same time, I want to bring awareness to you and, of course, our mission and what we're trying to do. Again, hopefully, I'll be back in the States in the next 3 weeks. The boxes that are there, you see this way over here are our boxes, and this is a shipment. This is probably my third or fourth ship as an exporter to the States with goods that we manufactured here in Cambodia. Okay? So I'm not going to talk about the trade war with China right now, but I am going to talk about this big stack of fabric that we have to convert this to blankets for the homeless. And so I'll be looking for donations, sponsors, to help us complete our mission. It's going to be a tough fight, to say the least. So I want to talk briefly about why I do what I do. First of all, my mom is homeless. First and foremost, she's homeless. She lives in a homeless shelter. That's why I will not give up. I will serve other homeless people. I will continue to help shelters. I will continue to help people that are in need, giving out of my own pocket. In the beginning of this video, you saw that the Hoodyvanman was freed from economic servitude. What that means is I'm going to give away everything I have. I'm going to convert every asset I have, house, cars, in the name of homelessness. It is a serious problem. And I want to talk about the solution to homelessness, the solution to discrimination, many ideas that I have that I think is a solution. Okay? I'm going to tell you right now, race needs to go. Black, white, there's no such thing as black and white. No black person is this black, this color. No white person is this color. We all have pigmentation. That is one of the problems that we have right now. I agree to some extent that people can identify themselves based on geography. Whether or not I agree with the way that race was labeled, the three races, Caucasoid, Mongoloid, and Negroid, back in the 1700s, I'm not so sure I agree about that. Americans on the whole, people on the whole, are one race. We are Homo sapiens. We all originated 300,000 years ago. 300,000 years ago as humans on this earth. We all evolved from between 200 and 300,000 years ago. I am not a social scientist. I am not an anthropologist. I am not an economist. So I'm not a researcher. I'm a person who's trying to fix a problem that we have in the States called affordable housing / homelessness. I'm not a historian. My training is legal. But I see some of the problems can be resolved through constitutional changes. No one's going to want to hear this. We've got to get rid of the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment gives everyone the right to bear arms, to hold a gun. That was okay back in the 1700s. That was okay back in the 1600s. That was okay back in the 1800s. It is now not okay. We have to change our laws. We have to change the way we think, not only as Americans, but also as a population, as people, as humans. The dinosaurs were wiped away. I read somewhere an asteroid came really, really close to the Earth. Guess what? If one of them humongous black hole asteroids come and hits the Earth, we're all going to be wiped away. None of this stuff is going to matter. Who's blue? Who's red? Who wants affirmative action? Who doesn't? The KKK, Black Lives Matter, all these different groups. We're all one people. Anyone coming to America is one person. We are one group. We're Americans on American soil. We must stop discriminating and distinguishing ourselves on the basis of race. It cannot happen. I'm not saying race is not a factor. I'm not saying that no reparations should be made. 40 acres and a mule. I'm not saying any of that. I'm saying that somehow we all need to put our differences aside and start thinking as one human race without regard to color. In America, some Floridians, where there's the Hurricane Dorian right now, they're going to want to move to Washington, D.C. No Washington, D.C. people, citizens, are going to want to live in Florida. People in South Carolina distinguish themselves from people in North Carolina. West Coast and East Coast. Nothing wrong with distinguishing yourself on the basis of geography. On the basis of color, I think is wrong. To tell someone that they're inferior based on their color is wrong. It's completely wrong. I agree and disagree with a lot. Cornel West. Many things I agree, many things I disagree. Mr. Shelby. Some things I agree, some things I disagree. I can go on and on and on about who I agree with, who I disagree with. I'm going to tell you one thing that I think that everyone agrees on, is that we must stop discriminating against each other on the basis of race. We are all one race. In Cambodia and many Southeastern Asian countries, people discriminate on the basis of color. If you are a dark color, people in Cambodia think you're poor. People in the Philippines think you're poor. People in Thailand think you're poor. Somehow, a lighter pigmentation, it means that you're superior. That's hardly the case. Studies prove it wrong. Physically, mentally, it's just crazy how race has come into the forefront and how people distinguish themselves black and white. Ain't nothing black and white. There's always a gray area. Always a gray area. And the Hoodyvanman main purpose at this point is to help homeless people. My mom is mentally ill. My mom is in a homeless shelter. I want to help homeless people all over. I also want to make some progress in the areas of criminal justice reform. We have 2 million people who are locked up in our prisons. America imprisons more people. 20% of the world's population is in our jails right now. So I want to delve more into criminal justice reform, social justice reform, as it relates to homelessness and as it relates to our mission in terms of what we're trying to do. I hope you appreciate a little dance, a little singing that we do at the beginning of some of our discussions. This is only, as far as I'm concerned, an introductory series of videos that I'll be presenting to the world. I will be in my van. I will be wearing a hoodie. I will be offering free gifts, free consultation, free counseling, and free referrals. in exchange for your donations, your sponsors, and your money. We're a nonprofit 501c3 organization. My email address is hoodyvanman@gmail.com. You can reach me at 301-532-7717. Anywhere in the world, you can call me and you can email me. We're going to be traveling all over the United States in that van trying to rectify homelessness and affordable housing. At the same time, keeping track of some of the other collateral issues that come along with homelessness and affordable housing. Okay? So I thank you for your time. Hopefully this video wasn't too long. I'll try to make the next video more exciting. I'll try to make the next video more to the point, so we can not get necessarily to the nitty-gritty, but try to figure out how we can become one human population. 7.3 billion people on the earth. China's got 1.4 or 5. India has 1.2. Americans, we got over 300,000 people. In Cambodia, 15 million people only. Vietnam, which is right next door, over 100,000 people. We can't compare our country to Germany's country, which has a much better criminal justice system than ours. We have to figure out what's going to work well with us. Hoodyvanman, August 31, 2019. 1619 is the date that the first Africans arrived in Jamestown, Virginia. Racism on American soil probably began at that point with respect to African Americans. With respect to the Indians and Native Americans, it happened before that. So we'll talk about that a little later. Thank you very much for your time. Akko.